Speaking out about puberty and bodies is Cath Hakanson, a sex educator, former sexual health nurse, the founder of Sex Ed Rescue, and the author of The Parent's Guide to Puberty, the Sex Education Answer Book, and the Play and Learn Paper Dolls series of friends, families, and superheroes. Cath is out to give parents a steer on how to talk with tweens and teenagers about the changes they will go through physically, emotionally, and socially, and how to talk with younger children about bodies by having fun with anatomically correct paper dolls. So ideally, parents would talk with their kids about puberty before puberty hits. And you've even said that it's good to talk to your kids whether they're 3 or 16. And also the biggest mistake that parents make is leaving it too late.
A lot of parents, I find, wait until their kids hit that age where their parents spoke to them, which is usually when you start to see some signs of puberty. A lot of kids are scared of puberty because it's this sudden thing that they're learning about. It's the first time that they've heard that their body's going to start changing and morph into this adult-like body. So I'm a big advocate of talking early and making it fun. Babette Cole, she's an English author who wrote Hair in Funny Places. When my daughter was 4, we read it for nearly 6 months every night, and she couldn't wait for puberty to happen because she thought it was this great adventure.
So like with all sex and relationship topic conversations, talking about puberty is all about having many conversations that spiral over time. That's why your sex education answer book works. You have one question, then you show how to answer for different ages. Can you give us a few examples of things that parents can say about puberty to little kids and then to older kids?
When they're younger, it's more just shooting the breeze, saying something. It's very conversational. It's about just letting them know that something's going to happen in the future. Mums or parents that have got periods will often comment that the kids will help them unpack this, the shopping from the supermarket, and they'll grab a packet of tampons or pads and go, "What's this for?" Or you can hand it to them and you can say, "Can you pack this away? Do you know what it is?" And also bathroom. I hear from a lot of parents whose kids discover that mum has blood coming out of her vagina and they freak out because usually to a 4 or a 5-year-old, when they have a cut, it's a big disaster. But this is just a great opportunity to say, that's blood. It comes out of there once a month. It's something that happens to all mums. When their friends' bodies are starting to change, that's when it becomes more of how to care for this new body that they've got. Because some kids really struggle with the changes, like they are sweating and their clothes are getting really smelly. So the conversations as they get older are more like, "Oh, I went to the supermarket and I bought you some deodorant. How about you start putting it on in the mornings before you go to school?" Or they go to put it on at the end of the day and you go, "Have you had your shower yet? You're a bit on the nose, you're a bit smelly." And they may go, "Oh, I'll just go put some deodorant on." You can go, no, deodorant on a dirty body just smells worse. It's best to put it on a clean body. You can get books for kids from the age of 7, because we now get a lot of kids having puberty early and they don't talk about sex because sometimes kids, they're so freaked out by hearing about puberty that if you then throw sex in, they think, "My God, this is something that I have to do." So we don't have to get so caught up about getting it right. And I think we need to see sex ed as being part of that everyday conversation. So you might casually say something and your kid might just walk out of the room and not respond, or they might actually turn around and go, "Oh, well, I have a period one day," and it might turn into a conversation. But we can just, I guess, say simple stuff at a level that they understand and just keep on repeating it.
During puberty, it's not just physical changes that kids go through. They experience mood swings and they'll develop sexual feelings and attractions, maybe same-sex attractions. So I think it's really empowering for kids to learn about the fact that their brain is developing, it's under construction, and puberty will rewire their brain. So they'll start to think differently about sex. Can you tell us something about that?
You don't need a degree in brain science to be able to talk about this stuff. My daughter, she'll talk about something that a friend did at school and we'll go, "Well, that was probably a stupid decision." But then we'll go, "But hang on, she's going through puberty. there's all this stuff, the brain's pruning all these connections, and as it does it, sometimes it throws out the part that helps you to make smart decisions. The brain you've got now isn't the brain you're going to have as a grown-up, so that, by the time you're 17, you'll be more mature, you'll be more switched on, you'll be able to make those decisions. So the brain stuff, I think, is good because it lets kids understand themselves a lot better.
You've got a list of 10 things that your child needs to know about puberty. And some of my favorite parts of that are that your child's body is pre-programmed to change in a certain way, but it's a lucky dip as to when and how it changes. Also, these changes don't happen overnight.
Most parents don't want their kids to be alone and scared and frightened as they go through puberty and adolescence. There's always a kid that's first and there's always a kid that's last. So there's always kids that are sort of feeling like they're still the short one and all their friends are really tall, or they're the only one in their class with breasts. It's about letting them know that it'll just happen when their body says it'll happen. I guess it alleviates that fear and just lets them trust that their body knows what they're doing, because they do want it to hurry up as well. And normalising it. As kids go through puberty, they feel very much that they're the only one that it's going through. So letting them know that their friends are going through it as well. You as a parent have been through it as well, and you remember what it was like.
So when we talk about boys and puberty, the topic centers around things that are kind of pleasurable, like erections and ejaculation and wet dreams. And then with girls, it's about things like periods and preventing pregnancy. So not so much fun. How can we talk more positively about the sexual responses that girls have during puberty?
We tend to break it down to the physical things, and probably the most significant or the biggest change for boys is erections and ejaculation and sperm, and for girls it tends to be periods. We do talk about vaginal discharge a little bit. Some people are happy to teach a 3-year-old what a clitoris is, whereas others think, well, let's just call it a vulva, and as they get older, we'll then teach them the finer details. If they've started off with vagina, I go, that's great. How about now you're teaching that the vagina is the inside part and the vulva is the outside part?
So how can we as parents become more comfortable talking about puberty and sex and bodies? You've talked about things like sharing stories of when we were growing up ourselves, or talking in this everyday voice. So give us your wisdom about how parents can normalize these conversations.
It's about being a step ahead, so knowing what's coming up next. Puberty takes a long time to happen. My son's 12. I'm not talking to him about shaving because I know that facial hair is not going to happen for maybe another 2-3 years. First changes are, they're going to start getting sweaty and some pimples, and the hair will start getting oily. We can also talk about feelings changing and emotions. And then we can start talking about hair, about the fact that they might start getting armpit hair or pubic hair. And then we can also talk about breast budding as well, and just trying to look for teachable moments. So looking for those everyday opportunities that are out there and are sort of waving their hand at you and saying, hey, talk about me. As they get older, you can't throw books at them. If I want to sit down and read a book with my 12-year-old about puberty, he's likely to say, no, not interested. So I ended up finding a funny book that was bordering on a little bit lewd and crude, and it really made him happy to read it. Graphic novels that talk about puberty and stuff can be great. So you can sit down and watch their favourite program, or you can find a program that you both want to watch, or a movie, and then you can just talk about the stuff that pops up. The benefit of us growing up in a really sexualised society with movies and TV shows that are talking about sex all the time is that we can use that to our advantage. Great opportunities to talk about love, sex and relationships, and to share your values and your thoughts on something. You can go, oh, what do you think of that? Do you think that that's really how people meet and that's what people really do? Or what do you think?
Do you think parents are worried about talking about puberty because they're worried about maybe sexualizing their children?
A lot of parents still believe that if we talk to kids about sex, that they're going to go out there and do it. Whereas all the research that tells us it's the kids that are out there doing it are the kids who haven't had discussions with parents. Kids ask crazy questions like, which hole do I put the tampon in? Is it normal to have hair in my armpit that's straight, not curly? Giving them information about their body, it doesn't sexualize them, it just gives them knowledge.
And what's this thing, you sort of trademark this idea of using your everyday voice.
If they ask you what's for dinner, you would answer a question about what colour's sperm in the exact same voice. So making it feel like it's an everyday conversation with my kids that we talk about so much that there's no shame or discomfort about bodies. They just see bodies as another thing. They don't see they don't see genitals as something to be ashamed of. They still know that genitals are private and that no one should touch them and they shouldn't be flashing them at school and stuff. Just talking about, genitals and bodies in an everyday way breaks that cycle of shame.
Why is it so hard for people to talk about pleasure?
We didn't grow up learning about pleasure, so we find it difficult. And there's so much shame still about masturbation. So I think it's just that surface shame that we all grew up with. I think it will slowly change, but it'll be slow.
So with your Play and Learn Paper Doll Friends book, here it is, you created a set of anatomically correct paper dolls. And it's so amazing. It makes so much sense to me because young children can be so receptive and open to difference and those ideas. So tell us about these paper dolls and also give us ideas of how they can help parents talk about correct words for body parts and about nudity and about gender stereotypes.
If you're sitting at a table and, you can rip out a page and go, well, which one do you want to colour in? And they'll point to one and you'll go, oh, is that doll a girl or a boy? And they'll go, it's a boy. And you'll go, oh, how do you know it's a boy? And they'll go, because it's got a penis, or I don't know. So you can use them to start conversations while you're both colouring. When your hands are busy and both of you are doing things, it just helps with conversation naturally. So many parents said to me, Cath, they didn't even comment about the genitals. The kids don't bat an eyelid. And so having the genitals there and included just normalises that Alex comes with a penis, or they come as a vulva, or they could be intersex, or the child could draw their own genitals on there if they wanted to. So you could pick a doll with a short hair and a penis and put him in a dress and go, oh, this is Mary or this is Fred, but Fred wants to wear a dress today. Is that okay or not? And you can use them to also start having conversations about gender, breaking those stereotypes that kids have about, boys can't play with dolls, they can only play with trucks. Boys can't wear dresses, they can only wear pants.
So how does talking openly about puberty lead to talking about things like healthy relationships and love and sex and consent?
The body's smart. It can, start creating sperm and you can start ovulating and having eggs and stuff, but there's no point having all this if you don't want to do something about it. So the changes then happen for the brain so that you then start thinking about sex more, so that you'll want to go out and do it, fall pregnant and have a baby. My daughter's 15. We talk about the fact that as she goes through puberty, she might start to have sexy thoughts or start to think about a loving relationship. She might like boys, she might like girls, she might like someone who's non-binary, she might like both or all, or she might have an attraction to no one, and that's all okay.
What ways do you think parents can celebrate their child becoming an adult and going through puberty?
I'm a bit of a slack one. We did no celebration at all. Some will celebrate the first period because they see that as a step into womanhood, but we don't have something similar for boys or for penis owners. So yes, some will buy jewellery or will go out and have a celebration dinner, or they'll go off and have a mum and daughter, afternoon tea or something.
In your book, The Parent's Guide to Puberty, you said that, and I quote you here, 12 to 15-year-olds consistently say that their parents are the most important influence when it comes to making decisions about sex, even more than their friends, teachers, or the media, which is amazing. So, but we know that talking openly and honestly at home about sex and relationship topics, it strengthens the parent-child connection. But why else should parents talk openly about puberty with their children?
When I first started this whole sex ed thing, for me it was all about sex education. It was about teaching your kids information so they don't make the same mistakes we made. I then realised that it wasn't actually about the information that we share. It was about the fact that my kids knew that because I could talk to them about all this stuff that other parents and other people didn't talk about. They knew that it was then okay to talk to me. So turning it into this ongoing conversation just makes life, it strengthens your relationship, and it means that you've got their back. We don't sit and have deep and meaningful conversations, but just this simple thing about talking about all this other stuff. My daughter tells me stories about the relationships that a lot of her friends and kids she knows have with their parents. And she turns around and says, I'm really glad I can talk to you about all this stuff, Mum. And it's like, God, I'm not the best person for talking about feelings and touchy-feely stuff, but it doesn't matter. She's got the message that she could talk to me about anything. And that's what matters. That's why I'm a big advocate about having these conversations about puberty can strengthen your relationship. So as they're going through puberty and adolescence and working out who the hell they are and where they fit in the world, if they've got you there watching their back and they know they can come and talk to you, it just makes life much easier for them and makes adolescence a smoother process. They're still going to have their ups and downs, but I think as parents, think back to what puberty and growing up was like for yourself, and there's very few adults that have got positive memories. And if I'd had a parent that I could have talked to, no, I wouldn't have made anywhere as near as many mistakes as I did make. We all have a different slant or passion. I think mine's about normalising. It's about good enough sex education. It's about having lots of conversations. You don't have to get any of them perfect or right, but when they all add up together, you get a result of a kid who's able to make smart decisions about sex. I look at all my friends that have done really good sex education. Their kids have made pretty good decisions about love, sex, and relationships. And you can make lots of mistakes. God, I have lots of dud conversations in our house where I'll try to start a conversation and it goes absolutely nowhere. Or my kids will roll their eyes and go, "Oh, Mum, do you have to talk about that?" But even with all that happening, I'm still growing up kids who are going to be able to make smart decisions. They're not going to feel ashamed. And what's even better? When they have their own kids, they're going to be just like me. So I've broken the cycle of shame for my two kids, which means their children and all of their children will also grow up without shame about sex. And that's pretty bloody powerful. It's exciting, gives me goosebumps.
Hi, I'm Leah, Director of Outspoken Sex Ed. We're out to make parents feel more comfortable and confident talking openly and honestly with their kids about sex and relationships topics, and even enjoy learning from them. Outspoken is a social enterprise, which means that we survive in large part thanks to your donations. So please head over to outspokeneducation.com. It's our great website where you can donate and sign up for our fantastic newsletter and begin having these conversations more easily and openly with your kids starting now.